Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Curiosity for Christ podcast. My name's Mick Shelby. I'm going to be hosting this bad boy, and the show's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. My endless curiosity for many different subjects in life finally led me to Christ, and I wanted to do my part on spreading the good news. The reason I chose to go the podcast route was when I first became a Christian. One of my favorite things to do would be watch testimonials on YouTube. I couldn't get enough. I loved hearing people's stories. I loved, especially, people like myself that were just you could have never told me, even 5 years ago, that I'd ever be calling myself a Christian. So just seeing people with different backgrounds, different struggles, different paths to get to find Jesus was just one of the most, again, I would watch hours and hours and hours. The gnarlier the stories, the better. Becoming a Christian, obviously we're called to spread the good news, and I've always wanted to find a way to do it. I don't think I'll ever be a pastor. I don't think I'm going to be a street evangelist. So yeah, just figured this would be the medium to, talk to people and, see how they found their way. Because I tell you the coolest stories. And so that's what I wanted to do. Like I said, I've always been curious about aliens, government conspiracies, alternative history, you name it. And I finally found Christ, which was the ultimate path to go down. And I'm grateful that I found it. So what I want this podcast to be is to learn about people's testimonials. What I was watching is what exactly I want to do here. The farther we're away from Christ, the better. I think that's such a cool conversation to talk about. And in hopes that people see these and, the same people like myself that never in a million years thought they would turn to Jesus. Maybe that just opens the door, plants the seed, if you will. So if I'm going to be trying to do a podcast hearing about everyone else's testimonies, I figured this first episode, the inaugural Curiosity for Christ episode, should be mine. So this is my very first one, January 20th, 2026. So I cannot wait to look back on this year's down the road with mistakes I'll make and poor editing and probably all over the place. But it's part of the journey. I love it, and I'm up for the challenge. So with that, I guess I'll just get started. Growing up, I was never, family was not religious. Parents we never talked about God, or, we would go to church for like holidays. My grandparents were Methodist. So, and I would go to like Bible school when I was younger. My grandma was like the arts and crafts teacher at Jackson Bible School in Jackson, Michigan. So that was about the extent of it. I had cousins that were, Christian, and we always joke Megan would come over and watch the movies at our place that she couldn't watch at hers. So like Austin Powers was her first like reality check to like adult comedy. So there was never like a thing in the household. I never really even thought about it. I don't know if I was ever like an atheist, but I didn't think too much thought into it. So my story kind of begins when my parents divorced back when I was 15. I'm the oldest of five. Once that happened, my mom and my four younger siblings moved out of the city. So it was just me and my dad in Tecumseh, Michigan. At the time, he was working he just started a business, Great Lakes Power Wash, Michigan Power Washing Company. And so he was working third shift. So I went from a house full of two brothers, two sisters, mom, dad, to by myself. So I didn't really know what to do with myself. I wasn't huge into TV, still a kid, sports and, anything like that was how I passed my time. Growing up, my dad's a drinker, so there was always vodka and 30-pack, dirty 30 of Busch Light in the fridge. And so one night I'm just bored, and I said, let's see what this thing's all about. And I remember he had gin and he had tonic water. So I think my very first drink ever was a gin fizz, and that took away the loneliness. Right away I was like, dude, what is this? Like, I want this all the time. And it's funny because I've been doing AA for a couple of years, and you hear a lot of people's stories that, it started with partying and socializing, and then it turned into, drinking by yourself. And mine was the opposite. I started drinking by myself just to take away the loneliness. And I ended up liking it so much that I would, junior year, I was going to high school, vodka and Gatorade first period, booze in my locker, and lunchtime, after school. How I never got caught in high school is beyond me, because I just really didn't care. So I remember my first when I first even thought about anything spiritual was when my buddy Joe showed me the documentary of The Secret, which, if y'all don't know what The Secret is, it's like law of attraction, positive affirmation, you manifest your own outcome. And that was like the coolest thing I had ever seen in my life. I was obsessed. I'm like, what? And it all made sense. I mean, energy, everything's energy, and you put out what you get in what you put out and all that. And man, I fell in love. I just would watch it, I'd read books about it, and I would start practicing it. And I don't really know if that was like a spiritual conquest. It was more just like, oh, this is how the reality works. Okay, energy makes sense, vibrations make sense, frequency, yada yada. And I got some results pretty early on, which was like a trip. One quick story, which this is like what solidified. I was like, okay, law of attraction is legit. I was on probation at the time in high school. I got a DUI when I was 17. And I had a buddy, Seth, who lent me $10 at one point. I don't remember what it was for, but I remember I had to go to Jackson to do some community service, and I really needed gas money. And I'm like, yo, Seth, where's that $10? No, he couldn't get it to me before I had to leave. So I'm like, law of attraction. Okay, it's cool. Like, it will work out. I'll get my money. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not putting negative energy out there because I don't want negative energy coming back. So I just was like, whatever. And it was probably my second night there. I was doing community service at like a homeless shelter downtown Jackson, middle of winter time. So it got dark early. And I remember waiting for my grandpa to come pick me up. Rough part of downtown Jackson, Michigan, for any of those who you know. And it's like dark out, snow's coming down. It's just me standing on the corner with a street light. And all of a sudden this van pulls up with two ladies. And they're like, hey, are you the only one out here? And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? I'm thinking drug deal. I'm thinking like prostitutes maybe. I don't know. So yeah, what's going on? They're like, well, come here real quick. And I walked up and they said, we were just praying. And God told us to bring $10 to the first person we saw on the corner. So they gave me a $10 bill and a card to their church. And that was just like the most insane, random law of attraction thing that just solidified my belief. I'm like, oh, this is for sure true. Told my grandpa about it. It's funny. He actually asked if he could have the 10, and he gave me like 2 5s. And last I knew, he still had that $10 in his wallet. Well, that was probably also like 10 years ago. So that kind of was just, my first like introduction to, I guess it was a spiritual thing, because that, once you get into law of attraction, you get into the meditations and all that other stuff. Also, outside of drinking, I really enjoyed my hallucinogens, acid, shrooms. At the time, I was just like, oh, it makes you trip. And I always had good trips. I heard about bad trips, but I was just like, dude, I'm too positive. Right set, right setting. I can't have bad trips. I'm like immune. And so, a couple of those trips in, you get the spiritual experience. To anyone who's never done them, it's hard to explain, but you kind of see through the veil of reality, if you will. And so really got into the hallucinogens, still loving my partying, found my step into some kind of spirituality. I guess it would be like New Age, they would call it. And so I remember having like an out-of-body experience, and that was another door that opened. They say whenever you have like sleep paralysis, it's like your body wakes up before your mind does or something like that. And I remember I was at my grandpa's and woke up one morning. My sleep schedule was all off because I was working third shift for my dad's company. So I was used to going to work at like 7, 8 p.m., getting home at 4, 5, 6 a.m. So I go to my grandpa's and it's like, all right, we're getting up at 6 a.m. to work. And so I didn't really sleep much that night. And I remember seeing the sun coming up, and I went to turn over, but I couldn't move. I'm like straight sleep paralysis. So I've never experienced this before. And I remember I'm like sitting there. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to turn over as hard as I can. And I went to do that. And all of a sudden I'm on the other side of the room, laying on the floor, looking at myself laying in the bed. And I was tripping out. I was like, what? Never experienced anything like it. But at the same time, I'm still like, I could still feel myself in bed, like laying there. Like I was in 2 places at once. It was really weird. And I just remember having this really like weird dark energy feeling, like, I don't know, something was there, but I didn't think too far anything into it. And then I don't know how long it lasted, but then I woke up and I was still laying on my side. So I never actually turned over like I thought I had. And that, dude, again, my curiosity about stuff, I just went full bore. That whole summer, I'm looking up astral projection, how to practice it, breathing techniques to do it. And that gets into lucid dreaming. And so I was just, again, very new agey, consciousness, energy, astral projection. And, for those who don't know, astral projection is like when your consciousness leaves your body. And so I was meditating to learn how to do that. And I'll save this probably for another episode, But I got decent at it to where I kind of knew the signs of sleep paralysis, and you get that vibrating feeling and the high pitch in your ear. And so I started practicing actually purposely doing astral, which again, I wasn't like CIA, like remote viewing stuff, but I had an experience or two, which was like crazy. And I know for a fact they weren't dreams. So at this time, drinking, partying, hallucinogens, astral projecting, meditation, law of attraction. And I know at one point in high school, my brother started kind of dabbling his foot into Christianity because he kind of, followed my steps, being a younger brother, and which I would love to. He's going to be on here. I'm putting it out there. His name's Christian, and I'm putting it out there that he will be on my podcast to do an interview about his testimony because it's pretty cool too. But he started getting into Christianity, and I'm like, oh, dude, you fell for the cult, man. I just, he was really into it, and I was really against it. I'm again, it's a control tool. You guys are crazy. And, it was like he was level-headed, but I was, again, most of the time drunk probably. So very combative, very, feel like I'm in the right. You're in the wrong. You're nuts. Arguments with my grandpa, he was very Christian, and go back and forth with him, talking like I just knew everything. So I was anti-Jesus big time. I thought I had it all figured out. And what also kind of led to this, so kind of backtracking a little bit, when Ancient Aliens came out, because I was always infatuated with UFOs and aliens since I was like 13 years old, before I ever even started drinking. Big Blink-182 fan, so Tom DeLonge was legitimately my idol. Like, don't idolize, don't have idols. I did. Talked like him, dressed like him, played guitar because of him, was interested in all the stuff he was interested in. He's big into UFOs, so I wanted to be Tom, like big time, which, now my idol is Jesus, and try to live up to that one, but impossible. So Ancient Aliens comes around, and I'm like, another thing, like watching The Secret for the first time, I'm like, oh, life's figured out. Aliens created us. They saw apes and they messed with our DNA, and that's why we have gods all over the world, and they all have the same story of these gods came down and gave us information. So I'm figuring life out. I got it locked down. I know how God's energy, it's consciousness, there isn't one creator. You can astral project, manipulate your future by the way you think about it. And aliens are real, and they created us. So that was like, man, and I was a nerd. I gave a speech on ancient alien theory in college, knew everything about it. And again, it's one more missing puzzle piece to me figuring out life. So I got it all figured out now. And that would be, and it's funny because now some of the same arguments I use with people I have conversations with that don't believe, I remember my brother giving me those same arguments. We'll probably talk about that when I have him come on, but I was convinced, there's not just one solo creator, and, life just came from energy and consciousness and whatever. So fast forward, I'm kind of living this way. At one point, I get engaged, living in San Antonio, Texas at the time. Oh, furthermore, I even joined this like group on Facebook that would like go look to contact these UFOs. I can't remember what the group was called, but Dr. Stephen Greer was like the head guy on it. Putting like laser pointers up, and you try to communicate. Again, knowing what I know now, I probably wouldn't be doing all that stuff, but so I was all in, and dating this girl, and I'm just messing up left and right with my drinking. I mean, she's forgiven me. She's giving me warnings. I quit drinking. I started drinking. And it's just a cycling, revolving door. There we go, revolving door. And it gets to the point where I'm just like, dude, I don't want to go to AA. That's another cult too, right? Because I know everything, so that's a cult. And that was when I was like, maybe I looked toward a religion. But again, I was so anti-Jesus. I wanted to go to Hinduism. I'm like, Buddhism. I even looked at Islam. I mean, anything but Christianity. That's how anti-Christian I was. I was like, I'm not doing it. And then I kind of got to the point where I'm just like, oh, none of these, I don't know. Maybe I'll just read the Bible. And this is what I always tell non-believers. Like, have you read the Bible? Because like me, I never did. I just kind of based off what I knew from what I heard and what all the bad things. And so I never sat down to actually read the Bible. I was judging it from a totally ignorant state. So I was like, okay, you know what? And also, I wanted to prove that aliens and all that were UFOs and all this stuff was extraterrestrial anyway. So I'm going to read the Bible just to prove that it's not, I think so many Christians, Lee Strobel, right? The Case for Christ. I wanted to start this to prove that Christianity was wrong. And, I start reading the Bible a little bit. And I remember calling my brother and I'm like, dude, the Bible's messed up, dude. I got through like Genesis and Exodus. And I'm like, this is kind of crazy. But I was again curious, so I'm reading it, and I think that's when that Holy Spirit comes on you, because my heart started changing. You know, I was reading it to prove it wrong, but I was really intentional with reading it. So I wanted to understand it. And I thank God for giving me that curiosity, because, you know, I'm getting through like Leviticus, and then I start, you know, actually my brother told me to like do like a new chapter, or a new Old Testament and New Testament, do some Psalms, do some Proverbs, which I would always call Proverbs. I didn't realize it was actually I thought, I don't know. I don't know what I thought. Thought people were saying it wrong, if I'm honest. So he's like, all right. And we're talking, we're having cool conversations. I got questions. He's giving me answers, you know, kind of discipling me a little bit, which I'm super grateful for. And then I was like, well, then maybe I'll check out a church. And he found me a church to check out, which was kind of my speed. You know, even when I was younger going to churches, those like Methodist church, the chapels, I just got weird with the pews and the stained glass, and I don't know, never cared for it. So it was this church, and it was in a cafeteria, and me and Juliana, my fiance at the time, decided to go check it out. And I remember, man, when people say like, how do you see God? True followers show you God through their actions and their love. And I just remember walking in and feeling so loved by these people. Just like everyone was so happy to see me. No one knew anything about me. No one knew what an anti-Christian I was. And I remember going through worship, and I just start crying, dude. And that's the Holy Spirit, man. I'm just crying. I'm like, dude, what is going on? But the people are really what brought me in. I started, you know, guys my age were, you know, they had some life groups. And so I'm going there, and man, I'm just, as I'm reading and I'm going to church and I'm meeting these people, now as I'm in church, the stuff is connecting and making sense, and I'm reading more. And again, that gift of curiosity I got. I just wanted to keep learning and learning and learning. And man, before you know it, I'm into it. We're doing life groups. I'm asking all these questions, and I'm getting these answers, and I'm still kind of throwing in ancient alien theory. And, you know, I'm getting like, that's, you know, their response. And I'm still a little combative, you know, I'm definitely 1 foot in, 1 foot out at this point. But, you know, before I know it, man, I'm ready to go. But I'm also not living the Christian way, right? My pastor here in Macomb Christian Church, remember he said, there's a lot of believers, but how many are you followers? Everyone can say they're a believer in Jesus, but do you follow him? And that, I remember that hit home, because I was just a believer. I mean, I was still premarital sex, drugging, you know, drinking every now and then, just really still living for myself, but building a little relationship with Jesus, but not anything I'm ready to like go full on about. And yeah, so I'm going full board. And at the time, you know, my fiance at the time, she from Colombia, Catholic growing up. Me and her weren't really, she wasn't as involved as I wanted to be. And that kind of started giving me some, you know, it was a tough, because, you know, we just weren't exactly on the same page. I'll just put it that way. And eventually got to the point where, you know, she finally said, you know, this isn't going to work, wanted to get separate. And, you know, so that engagement ended. And I remember at the same time I lost my dog. So I'm just in a drunk stupor. My brother calls me, hey, you got to come to South Carolina. And he, you know, Christian, his name's Christian, he is a Christian, has a great church community. And I move out there, and I, you know, really get in, but we'll really get into the community, you know, go into the life groups, hanging out with people, that followers. It still didn't fit. It took me a while to not feel like, you know, like I was, man, what's the word I'm looking for? Like I just didn't belong, like I was faking it. Like I didn't feel like I was truly, you know, comfortable with the whole Christian thing. So I'm still drinking, and, you know, eventually check myself into rehab, do all that. And man, I don't think it was until, you know, these less than a year, came back after I got out of rehab, I came back home to Michigan with everywhere I went, it was the promise to stop drinking. And even so, Christian allowed me to stay with him under that premise. I blew that, went to rehab, got out, moved to Greenville, had a good community. Anyways, long story short, I end up in Michigan, finally get my OWI. I've been dodging for years, 20 years of drinking. I got pulled over when I was 17, but that was like when I just started drinking, a couple of years. Not proud of it, but 20 years of drinking and driving all the time, and it finally came home to roost. And I tell you, I thought rehab was rock bottom. Jail sucks. 23 days in jail. But it was a blessing at the same time. I've read the Bible almost all day, every day, man. And it gave me an opportunity to be grateful and to have great conversations with different people in there with different backgrounds, and help myself grow by talking to others. And while I was in there one night, Because I remember I was like, man, when I get out of here, I got to do something to spread the good news. I want to help people find what I have, plant the seeds. But again, I'm not going to be I'm not going door to door. I'm not going to be on the street with a megahorn, bullhorn, or whatever they're called. It's not my style. And I remember one night, I don't know if you guys know who George Janko is. He has a podcast, really good one. Big fan. Love all the Christian Host podcasts. I had a dream that I was working for him on his podcast, and I just had a blast. When I woke up, it was just like, there it is, dude. And I was just like sitting there, I'm like, oh, that's what I do when I get out. And I was like, well, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about, but it's a good idea. And then I remember watching all those testimonial videos. Oh, cool, dude. So I had the idea, and I remember just can't wait to get out of jail. And that was a couple months ago. I'd like to think I'm definitely more of a follower than just a believer now. A lot of lifestyle changes, just being honest, trying to stay in the word as much as I can, but I'm, still very imperfect. So I've been putting this off for a couple months, but I finally got to the point where I'm just like, dude, just make imperfect action. Just get it out there. I know probably just my friends and my family may watch this or half of it, but I'm not expecting to blow up, and I just trust God's going to take this wherever he needs it to go. And that's all I want to do. So, it's imperfect. It's not very organized. I'm probably going to have trouble editing this. My brother still has to write me a theme song, so I'm waiting on that from him because I asked him about a month or so ago, but I've been lagging here too. So that's pretty much my story. I never in a million years thought I would call myself a Christian, but now I'm proud to be a follower of Jesus. And all I want is for the same for everybody, for my loved ones, for people I don't know. Even if it's just this one little test makes you think. This testimony just makes you think, like it's something you're interested in. A lot of people judge and don't even read the Bible. Just read it. Read it, and then if you freaking can't stand it, then whatever. But, I know it's kind of all over the place here. That's why I can't wait to talk to people. So again, my name's Mick Shelby. This is Curiosity for Christ. If you want to share your testimony or literally anything, honestly, if you're just really knowledgeable about something, I got questions. I'm curious. Curiosity for Christ. And that's what this is about. So I want to have people on that know more than me. Share their testimonies. Like I said, the farther away you were, the better, man. Like those redemption stories are awesome. So if you want to send me, you can send me an email at curiosityforchrist@gmail. That's 4 with the number 4. So curiosityforchrist@gmail. I'm going to set up a Facebook page and just anything. Send me emails with stories, or if you're really knowledgeable, if you just want to if you feel like you've been wanting to do something to spread the word and maybe coming on here just to help us start. I'm just starting. I'm a nobody. And, we'll see where God takes this, but I'm excited. I finally manned up and did it because I've been putting this off forever. For some reason, it's a little more nerve-wracking to just talk into a camera than I thought, but I'm glad I finally did it. If you all watched, I definitely appreciate it. Any non-believers want to reach out, that's cool. I'm sure there's going to be criticisms in the comments. That's fine. But I'm looking to see where this goes. So curiosityforchrist@gmail.com. That's 4 the number 4. And I look forward to just kind of seeing where this goes. I touched on a bunch of subjects, but I think I want to, what I've learned, a couple subjects I want to do podcast or another episode on hallucinogens, where that spiritual kind of connects. Because I had a bad trip that opened my eyes to what shrooms and acid really do. So probably an episode on hallucinogens. I want to do an episode probably on the aliens and how that kind of, because man, I tell you, Genesis 6, that just, if anyone y'all watch Blurry Creatures, that opened my eyes and reinvigorated my interest in the Bible. Because, it puts a whole new aspect on what angels and demons and this, these principalities that we're at war with. So I want to do an episode on that. I just got so many different things, and I just wanted to at least start with my testimony so you guys know where I'm coming from and what I want out of this. And it's starting with testimonies, but let's see where God takes us. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I look forward to meeting new people or people I already know, hearing their stories and doing what we can do to spread the good news of Jesus Christ. So I appreciate you watching, and I guess I'll just end here. This is where my theme song would kind of come in. If Christian can get that thing going, that would be sweet. So anyways, I'm done here. God bless.